Okay, welcome everyone. I am Cindy Rubin. I am owner and founder of In Touch Pediatrics and Lactation, and you are watching Keeping in Touch, which is my weekly series to talk about all sorts of things in the birth, perinatal, breastfeeding, young childhood space with amazing experts and local businesses that are serving this community. And today I'm a little starstruck today to have Nancy Mohrbacher with me. Welcome.
Thank you, Cindy. It's great to be here.
Yes, and she is an IBCLC and began her journey supporting breastfeeding families back in 1982 as a volunteer peer supporter.
Right.
And my hunch is that there was something behind that most of us who go into breastfeeding, I think, as a profession, had some sort of struggles ourselves. And she was board certified as a lactation consultant in 1991, and then for the next 10 years grew a large private lactation practice in the Chicagoland area. She has authored multiple books, both for parents as well as for lactation specialists, including a textbook called Breastfeeding Answers, which is amazing and so informative. And she continues to educate through her YouTube channel and packages and educational materials that she has for parents and for professionals, and helps to make hospitals more breastfeeding friendly, and just is overall so involved and amazing, and really just one of our foremothers in breastfeeding. And I'm honored to have you today. So we are going to talk today about something called natural breastfeeding. And this is something that, well, I'll let Nancy talk a little bit more about it, but it kind of came up when we were preparing for this interview, as I was talking about some of the positioning that I teach my own patients and that I used myself and what I was taught. And it's not necessarily, if you're watching this and you have breastfed, the ways that we teach breastfeeding, they just aren't natural. They're not natural. They don't come naturally to moms and babies. And I always say, there's a learning curve. We have to figure, but really there shouldn't be that much of a learning curve, I'm figuring out. So tell me what this is and how you came to this over time.
Okay. Well, thank you, Cindy, and thanks for your kind words. I appreciate it. It's great to be with you today. I started helping families, as you mentioned, in 1982 as a latch league leader. That was my peer support role at the time. Mm-hmm. And I did end up becoming a IBCLC and started private practice. And, for many years, it just really struck me that early breastfeeding is really hard. And, I made a lot of home visits. I know you do this in your practice as well. And it just seemed like, I used to describe my job as going from house to house, teaching mothers the tricks for how to make breastfeeding work. Mm-hmm. But why was it so challenging, and why was it necessary that I go to their house and actually work with them in person? Because I found no matter what I said or no matter what I wrote, it seemed to be necessary that I had to actually be there and show them how it worked. And that it struck me as wrong. Mm-hmm. Like if breastfeeding is supposed to be natural, why is it you need this sort of level of personal instruction in order to make it comfortable? Because there's so many people who are having nipple pain and trauma, and there was issues with milk transfer because the babies weren't latching deeply, and so it wasn't until I read a study. I was on one of my professional listservs, and there was a link to this study, and it was 2009. And I clicked on the link, and it turned out that study wasn't supposed to be that link. It was sort of illegal to share it that way. But I went on and I got the article and I downloaded it, and it was like I was struck by lightning. Yeah. Because this was a study that actually videotaped mothers and babies in England and France, and the researchers analyzed what they were seeing, and what they discovered they mentioned that, our newborns have certain feeding reflexes at birth, and they identified a whole bunch of reflexes that were known by neurologists, but were not associated with feeding. And they discovered that, our babies were actually meant to feed most easily on their tummies, not with pressure applied to their back, because they had the same feeding reflexes as the other mammal newborns, like puppies and kittens, that feed on their tummies, and piglets, lots of them. And so they discovered that when the mothers would lean back with the babies on top of them, and the babies could actually do the latching on their own, that these reflexes worked to help support breastfeeding. And when the mother sat up straight and gravity was pulling the baby away, the baby really couldn't participate actively in those positions. And these same reflexes that were meant to help babies get to the breast and feed suddenly become barriers to breastfeeding. Like the arm cycling that helps babies make their way up the mother's body becomes breast boxing. The head bobbing that they use to latch becomes head butting. And, I remember I was working with a lot of mothers who would say to me, I don't think I have enough hands to breastfeed.
Yeah.
I'm fighting my baby's arms and I'm fighting my baby's legs. And when I read all this, I realized, oh my gosh, it's the way we're teaching breastfeeding that's making it so complicated. It's not breastfeeding itself. And so I began experimenting with it. Suzanne Coulson had a term she used, biological nurturing, which I've heard butchered in every possible way. I travel around and speak all over the world. So me and a local OB doctor got together and we decided we were going to kind of give it a makeover. That's when we came up with the term natural breastfeeding, because it uses what nature programs into babies. It takes advantage of what babies bring to nursing, because like every mammal newborn, our human newborns they come fully equipped with the reflexes that they need to get to their food source and feed.
Yeah. I know I had a very long labor myself, and a lot of pushing, and a lot, I wanted to breastfeed. And I was lucky that I had this amazing OB who actually sat on the bed with me as she was delivering my baby, and then stayed there, which I think is a little bit unusual these days for the OB to even be there through the pushing, let alone to stick around afterwards. And she put my baby on me and just said, here's the little stuff. See what your baby's doing. And I don't remember I think there was a little bit of a latch there. But this was before I really knew anything. Mind you, I was a pediatrician and I knew nothing. And it's what we need to take advantage of. It's all of those newborn reflexes, and that's why they are there.
Right. Some people call that the breast crawl.
Right.
Some of your viewers may be familiar with that, but it's using the same reflexes that babies use right after birth. But those reflexes actually are hardy and long lasting. They last for weeks and months, and some even say years. And so no matter what age the baby, you can actually use those to your advantage if you're having nursing struggles.
Yeah. So how do we change this paradigm on a larger level then?
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to do what I can. I do speak to professionals all over the world. What I did first was I started my YouTube channel, and we created a website where parents can go on. It's naturalbreastfeeding.com. And we have two videos there, one in English and one in Spanish, that actually illustrates this. It's like a 38-minute video with narration that explains it sort of step by step. Because one of the things I learned from talking to professionals is that, the adjustments that you need to make in order for each couple to find their own best fit is a little different from the adjustments you'd make if they were sitting up straight. And so a lot of times professionals would say to me, oh, I tried that once and it didn't work.
Right.
That was because they didn't really understand, how to make those adjustments. And, Suzanne Coulson, who was the one who, was so instrumental in helping us get this, her personal philosophy is that it should be done sort of instinctively. But the problem is, of course, we professionals are not doing this instinctively. And I think for the professionals to really understand it and help families, we need to know, how to make those adjustments. And so those are explained in the video. I think it's a great video to watch during pregnancy, but it can be helpful. I get people to communicate with me all the time saying, oh, watching your video finally solved this very thorny breastfeeding problem that I've had. So it explains, there's 3 basic adjustments: adjust your body, adjust your baby, adjust your breast. Adjust your body is the body slope, because of course, you could be in many different body slopes. For example, you could be lying like maybe at about a 15-degree angle. Lying flat is not usually recommended because you can't really see whether the baby's breathing is obstructed. So you want to be up at least enough so that you can see the baby's face easily.
Okay.
And then you could actually be up fairly high, like around 65-degree angle. So that, but what you want to do, fortunately, you don't need a protractor for this. You just need to sit up high enough so that if you lift your hands, your baby stays on your body. So in other words, you're not holding your baby up with your arms. The baby is actually resting fully on you. So if the baby is, rolling away, then you probably need to lean back just a little bit more. So those are some of the adjustments, but also, the direction of the baby's body. The baby might be vertical, the baby might be horizontal, which works really well after cesarean, or the baby might be diagonal. So, these are just some of the ways we can adjust so that everybody finds the way that works best for them.
Yeah. And I thought that it was, as I was watching some of your videos, the adjust your body, your baby, and then your breast, which is completely the opposite, I think, of what we are often doing.
Yeah.
And to trust your baby too, that they can do it, and they can do it themselves. And I do find even with the upright positioning, that the more baby led the latch can be, the deeper it's going to be and the more comfortable it's going to be.
Yeah.
And then that laying back position also supports that, pushing the jaw forward and just getting that baby deeper and wider.
Yeah. One of the big struggles that many families have is, how do I get my baby to open wide?
Right.
Using these natural breastfeeding positions, it happens very automatically, because when the baby's chin bobs against the mother's body, then that naturally creates the wide open mouth, and the baby is actually controlling the latch so that the baby opens, at the very widest point. That's when they go to latch, and then gravity, as they relax their neck muscles, helps them get on deeper. And we now have, multiple studies. We have 2 randomized control trials and even a meta-analysis that shows, the number of breast and nipple problems are like half when families use these positions during the early weeks. So, which is wonderful. And we're even seeing there's more exclusive breastfeeding and less early weaning, when these positions are used. And I think a lot of that relates to the fact that you can actually relax all your muscles in these positions. When I'm helping families, I'm usually looking to see, is there a shoulder that's up? Is there some tension somewhere in the body? Because you can just put pillows or cushions, under the elbows or behind the back or behind the head, whatever, so that you can actually relax and recover while you feed your baby. And I think one of the issues why early nursing feels like so much work is because so many people are hunched over and they've got neck and shoulder pain, or there's muscle strain involved. And you can eliminate all of that with these positions.
Yes. And, of course, I think that one of the things that makes in our society these days this difficult is just the way we're set up, right? So, the way a hospital room is set up, first of all, and then the way a home is set up, and with visitors coming over. And, it makes, I think this is a way that COVID really helped things, is that people were home and could use, could relax, didn't feel obligated to be out and trying to figure out how to do laid back nursing when you're out and about. Well,
I have to say, I did spend some years helping hospitals improve their practices, and I found the hospital to be a really conducive place for this, because the beds recline. You can put them at any angle you like, and that made it really easy. And, a lot of times practitioners worry, oh, do I need to get a reclining chair for my practice?
Mhm.
Well, no, not actually. I mean, I still am active in leading latch league meetings in my area. And we have chairs. It does help if you have a chair with arms, but
Okay.
really you can use a regular chair and just move your hips forward in the chair, maybe have a pillow behind your back, but you
Right.
can create that body slope anywhere. And some of the more upright versions of it, you can easily do when you're out, but I totally agree. It's not something you want to learn while you're out.
Right.
You want to learn to do it at home, and then you can do a variation of it if you want.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm really against is any sort of rules about this. I usually
Yeah.
say favor these positions during the first 4 to 6 weeks. And that's the period before baby really gets more head and neck control, because at that point, really, usually they can help with latching in any position, but it's during that 4 to 6 week learning period, I think that these positions are so critical, because that's when we lose. That's when we see a huge drop off rate in breastfeeding, because
Yeah.
I think so many families are struggling.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that the pressure buttons,
Uh-huh.
I think that that's the cutest thing in the world. Can you tell everybody about what that is?
Yeah, well, Dr. Theresa, who made the videos with me, she took some courses with the Prague, the rehabilitation school that's in Prague.
Okay.
And so she was trained in sports medicine. And part of what they do with rehabilitation is there actually are parts, areas of the body that she calls the pressure buttons, that when pressure is put on them, it actually helps to have better body control. And she just translated that to newborns. And so, like, for example, the baby's feet, either the tops or the bottoms, it helps if they're in contact with something. There's a number of different places on the body where there are these pressure buttons, and the natural breastfeeding positions just naturally put pressure on those to give the baby more control and more coordination. So that makes it easier for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the fact that with natural breastfeeding, it just happens. Like,
Yes. So
just
it's all
happens.
very automatic. It's
Right.
one of the
Right.
things I when I was working with the local hospital, I would make rounds with the lactation consultants. And I remember one particular day when I was, they were teaching positioning in the usual, the old school way, where the mother was sitting straight up and they were teaching her the cross cradle hold. And, as the lactation consultant was going through all the steps that were necessary to get a deep latch, there's probably 10 or 15 of them, I watched the level of panic rise in the poor new mother's eyes, because I could tell she was thinking, I'm never going to remember.
Yeah.
So, it's really great because there's so little instruction involved. I think most people are aware that the mommy brain, most new parents, after you've had a baby, there's all these hormones that are actually, they're really positive in many ways, because they increase brain plasticity, which helps you adjust to parenthood, but it makes following instructions really challenging. So long list of instructions are not good.
Yes, good point. And you're exhausted too.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah. Which this position also helps you to be able to rest as
Exactly.
well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what I find difficult is, I work with a lot of, I think, kind of type A moms, and it's hard for them to give up that control. And how can we get the buy-in to even just try this process?
Well,
Like, what are the tricks to use?
I actually don't really have a problem convincing
Okay.
people to try it, because really all I'm asking them to do is try it once.
Right.
Because what I usually say is, these sitting up straight positions are great for when your baby's just a little bit older, but we've actually learned something new in recent years about how, there's other positions that are actually easier for your baby and for you right now. Would you be willing to give it a try? And I don't think I've ever had anyone who said no.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once they try it, they're like, wow, this really is a lot easier. It sells itself at that point.
Right. Right. Easier and less painful,
Right.
and all of those things. Yeah. Yeah. It's wonderful.
I remember a mother who came to my latch league meeting, and she had been exclusively pumping for 3 weeks. And so I took her into the side room, because she was exclusively puppy because nursing was so painful for her.
Mm-hmm.
So we went into a side room and I said, I've got this idea I'd like you to try, and she says, oh, I tried that and it didn't work. I said, well, would you mind trying it again? And here I was helping her and she said, well, all right. And so it turned out that she wasn't leaning back far enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that when she leaned back a little bit further and the baby latched, it was completely comfortable at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And she actually got angry. And she said to me, I am so upset that nobody at the hospital showed me this. She said, I've been suffering for the last 3 weeks and it was all completely unnecessary. All I would have had to do was do this from the beginning.
Right.
Right. I could understand how she felt.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just the more people who are breastfeeding and the more people who get trained in how to try just different things. Right. And there may still be some people who just for whatever reason, the upright position works better for them.
Well, I'm not about trying to tell people what to do.
Right. Sure.
Everybody needs to at least know about this and maybe be willing to give it a try once. If they really hate it, that's fine. Yeah. I think nursing families should be able to do what works best for them.
Right.
But what I've discovered is that so many of the common problems of early nursing can be completely prevented just by favoring these positions during the early weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you had babies that you've been able to avoid, like tongue tie procedures and things like that, because you have switched them over to this positioning?
Well, back when I was in private practice, that was quite a long time ago. And I'm sorry to say I didn't know about these positions then. Yeah. But I do have colleagues who work very closely with families in those situations. One of my colleagues is Catherine Watson-Jenna, who published a book about supporting sucking skills in breastfeeding infants. Mm-hmm. And in her private practice in New York City, she says absolutely that the physical dynamics, of the gravity helping pull the baby's tongue down during latch and, just all of it can make a huge difference in how well a tongue-tied baby can nurse.
Yes.
So, it's not, there's no one intervention that's going to work 100% of the time, but I think this is one that really has the potential to make life better for so many nursing families.
Yeah. Yeah. I always, with how much I have learned since I breastfed, I'm not having any more kids. I'm past that, but I kind of wish that I could try it again.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish too, because I'm a very long-waisted, I'm a tall woman and I'm long-waisted. All the years I spent like holding my babies up, there was never a nursing pillow that was high enough for me. Yeah. And, I think about all of this, the muscle strain that I went through that I probably didn't need to if I'd known about this.
Right. Oh, thank goodness there's people who are innovative, or maybe it's not innovative. Maybe it's just going back to the basics,
Yeah, there's a lot. A lot of it is that. And so, I hope that your viewers will take a look at the video at naturalbreastfeeding.com, but I also have a YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Nancy Mohrbacher, and you can see my name spelled on the screen here. It's kind of hard to spell. But it's got that one has a lot of, the YouTube channel has a lot of short videos. So if you just want something quick and, you're welcome to share them. I put everything up there absolutely free, and I'm not monetizing it because I don't want any commercials playing, and so, you're welcome to check it out and share it with other people. That's what they're there for.
Thank you. And I will put all of those links in the show notes where I post this on YouTube. Well, this is so helpful. So it has to be just revolutionizing the experience for so many people. And I'm so thankful that you have put so much time and effort and brain power into developing this into something that is more known and more used.
Well, I have to say, I just had a new grandchild born just 7 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations.
And at the very end of the pregnancy, I asked my son, because it's my son and my daughter-in-law, I asked him to watch the video. And when the baby was born, I was so proud of him because he remembered every little thing and he helped them get started, and it just worked like a charm for them. Yeah. My daughter-in-law was very, very nervous. I think being my daughter-in-law made her a little bit nervous. Breastfeeding, it's like, what if it doesn't work? She was really worried.
Right.
But it was just, they had the smoothest experience. She did not have one problem. And that was that was
Oh,
really gratifying for me.
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. That's fantastic. Well, congratulations.
Thank
Is
you.
is the baby, are they local?
Yes, yes, they're about a
Nice.
10-minute drive from us, and we're
Oh,
delivering
nice.
food there all the time these days.
Oh, good, good. Well, I want to ask a couple other questions that I ask everyone
Sure.
on these interviews. One is, what is your favorite thing in Chicago? Food, activity, place to go. What do you like about Chicago?
Well, I am born and bred Chicagoan, so I mean, there's a lot to love about Chicago. Um, I I love going downtown and walking along the lakefront,
Yeah,
and it's just a beautiful city. And when
yeah,
I often will have people come in from other parts of the world. Even I had some guests from Hong Kong not long ago, and it's just it's such a beautiful place, and I just love everything about it.
yeah, yeah. It is. It's beautiful, and it's got a certain personality to it, and the
Yeah,
personality of the people,
right.
and yeah,
We're
no,
not so squished together like the New Yorkers.
right.
We tend to be a pretty easygoing compared to other big cities.
Exactly. But we're still big enough that we have all of the stuff,
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. All right. And then number 2 is, and you cannot count natural breastfeeding as your answer. So, um, if you could go back and talk to your 20-year-old self,
Mhm.
what would you tell her?
I think I would just tell her to be patient because, I was lucky enough to be one of those people who found their passion in life,
Yeah.
but I didn't find it till I was about 32 or
Yeah.
maybe 30, if you count my time as a La Leche League member.
Yeah.
32 is when I started actually working with nursing families. And so, I guess that would be my words of wisdom is to be patient and, it'll come.
Yeah. Yeah. I always find it fascinating just hearing how people, the path that people took to
Yeah.
whatever they end up doing. And it's almost never a straight line.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
really didn't have a lot of serious breastfeeding problems.
Okay.
For me, it was, I was coming out of, I was working as an editorial assistant before I had my children, and I was looking for a way to have intellectual stimulation,
Mm,
something for me. And I loved being a Leche League leader. At the time, there was no IBCLCs,
hmm.
no lactation consultant profession. That didn't start till 85. But I was looking for a way, something that would be interesting for me to do, but didn't involve leaving my babies. And so
Yeah.
that was like a perfect fit for me. So
Yeah.
it was sort of an outlet for me in the beginning. So that
Yeah.
was lovely.
Very cool. And it hadn't even started that long before, right? Did
Well,
Lala?
1956,
Oh,
my
56.
the
Okay.
founders of La Leche League were my
Okay.
mother's generation. So
Okay.
I have had I have had mothers ask me at meetings, was I one of the founders of La Leche? I remember saying one of I like looked shocked when the first time I was asked that, and I felt badly afterwards because I really freaked her out. But I said I was 5 years old when
For some reason, I'm imagining it in the 70s,
yeah.
but I guess not. Yeah.
No, no, it started here in the Chicago area also. I like to think of
Yeah.
Chicago as the heartland of breastfeeding because Ilka had its first office in
Yeah.
Chicago also. So yeah, this
Yeah.
seems to be where a lot of things start with regard to
Very
breastfeeding.
cool. Very cool. Well, I so appreciate you coming and spending this time with me today. So informative, so helpful. I will definitely be using it in my practice. And I am definitely inviting you back to, I was telling Nancy before, I had this list of all of this stuff that I wanted to talk to her about. I'm like, I don't think we could do that in 30 minutes. And even as it is, we went over 30
Yeah,
minutes, or we're
yeah.
just about to. So,
Yeah, I do have 3 books for parents too.
okay.
Breastfeeding Made Simple, 7
Mhm.
Natural Laws for Nursing Mothers, Breastfeeding Solutions, and Working in Breastfeeding Made Simple. So just
Ah,
to throw those in at the end.
yes, very important. And I do a 4th year medical student elective
Mhm.
through Loyola. And part of what they do is they read a bunch of books, and your books are all on my list.
Oh,
So
how wonderful. Thank you. And I also have a Breastfeeding Solutions app that's available in the
oh,
App
right.
Store and Google
Yeah.
Play.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I will put links to all of this because all just absolutely amazing fantastic resources, both for professionals as well as for breastfeeding people. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Cindy. And thanks for what you do as well.
Oh, thank
You
you.
do wonderful work.
I absolutely love it, and I'm glad that I finally found my thing. And this will be broadcast live, and if you are watching live and you have questions, or you're watching after the fact and you have questions, you can still post your questions in the comments, and we will get back to you shortly thereafter. So, all right, have a wonderful, wonderful day, and we'll see you next week on Keeping in Touch. Bye-bye.